Welcome to the Lotco Business Podcast, a show all about helping you as a retailer, brand or creative understand the actual business side of running your business. I offer straightforward practical advice about the nitty-gritty of making money from your creative passion. We will be covering bite-sized business and marketing lessons as well as interviews with experts and trailblazers in the fashion, homewares and design industries. My name is Melissa Robbins. I'm a business coach, colour-loving, non-coffee drinking Melburnian. Let's get into it. Welcome, Nikki. So excited to have you here. Now, Nikki Parkinson is from Styling You, is a blogger, author, fashion designer, ambassador, influencer, former journalist, stylist, and all-round multitasker. She's an advocate for dressing for your attitude, not your age, and is all about empowering women. Thank you so much for being here today, Nikki.
I'm very excited to chat with you, Mel.
I am just honestly so grateful to have you on because you just, as I said in the start here, you just do so many different things. You can see from that you've evolved as you've gone along on your journey. So getting to talk to you and hearing a little bit about that today is going to be so amazing for everyone listening.
Thank you.
Now, to be honest, as I think I said this before to you, I don't even know where to begin with which areas we should focus on first.
Well, I must say that when you read it all out together, I've gone, do I sleep?
Probably not much, but as you said, I guess you have seasons of things too. So we can definitely talk about that in terms of you obviously you're an author from, I'm just going to roll with that first, which was it's not like what you've been doing recently, but your book's been out and it's still, that lifespan of the book is really long as well.
So I guess everything can come back to a community, and I accidentally fell into blogging at a very pioneering stage of blogging in Australia and around the world actually, but especially Australia at that point, and accidentally built a community. And it was just at the beginning of social media. And everything, when you put all that together, the core of it has been that community of women. And it's just been showing up in different ways to reach them. And the book came about because I had a community and the publisher contacted me at the time. Now, look, it didn't blaze any great bestseller lists or anything, but it's still, apart from the photos, I would say the content is still very much my key messages for women, particularly women over 35, who are feeling a bit lost in their personal style, which very easily translates into confidence in anything that they're doing in life. And they were all things that I felt.
Yeah. And obviously the trigger for you at the time was you were a journalist for, did you say, I think 20 years before that?
Yes.
Yeah. And then that ended. So I guess you were probably in that stage of what do I do now?
Well, I decided to end it, which was a crazy now or never moment. I had 4 months long service leave up my sleeve, and it was a lot of things were happening. The pressure on mainstream media, this is 2008, was happening there. And I could see that potentially I wasn't going to get to do the nice jobs that I liked, which was editing a weekly magazine. There was a squeeze, and there was the first redundancies that we'd seen in editorial at that time. At the same time, my husband moved jobs that would mean he was commuting an hour and a half minimum, probably realistically 2.5 hours each day, each way. And at that time I had a 2-year-old, I had kids in upper primary school and beginning of high school. And I thought, both of us can't be tied to employers.
There's too much going on here.
Someone has to be able to drop everything. And the person would be me, because the other person's at the end of the highway, a minimum 2 hours away. So it kind of all just bundled together. And I was 41, and something happens in your 40s where you just have a little bit more of a, is this all there is moment? And I went, in all aspects of your life and work, I went, I really like what I do, but am I really just going to do this for the next 20 plus years? Anyway, now or never moment, and decided to jump out, used 2 weeks annual leave in the May to kind of hustle, work out if I could get some freelance writing, university tutorial, just different work with my skills from people I knew who were looking for that, just to pay the bills.
Yeah, just to see what you
Yeah,
could.
see
Yeah,
what I could do.
love that.
Blogging was not on the radar. Social media was not on the radar. But what was a website that I could update myself to promote what I thought would be my personal styling business.
Yeah.
And that blog is exactly what is still existing today. There is some dodgy content from back in 2008.
I was going to say, your content must be enormous.
Yes, SEO people contact me all the time.
Yes.
It is rich and deep, and that is how people initially contacted me, read my work.
I guess, as you say, that connection with the community. So that's when that started, because you were putting yourself out there, which, again, even that was very new, because, you know, obviously videos become a bigger part of the picture now, but people actually putting imagery or putting yourself out there online was pretty new, you know, back then.
And initially I wasn't putting myself in it, because as a journalist, you never put yourself in the story.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But Twitter started, and it was a fun place to hang out. And seriously, some of my online friends from that stage, we still reminisce about the fun times on Twitter, because it was like a cocktail party. And because I'd gone from working in an office to working at home, I was connecting with all these like-minded people. And some of them had in their bio that they had a blog. And I went, hey, I've got one of those. And I would read them, and they put themselves, whatever niche it was, they put themselves into it, and people were commenting on the blogs and the blog posts, I should say. And that was a revelation. I've gone, oh my goodness. So I just need to switch the way I share the information, add myself into it, which includes photos, but also the way you write. And it was a very, very early stages of social media. So I've kind of grown up in this online world that has evolved. And, you know, there'd be blog posts sitting there with hundreds of comments on it.
Wow.
Because that's where everybody joined the conversation.
That was the social media sort of landscape at the time. Yeah, yeah.
And then as Facebook business pages arrived, and Instagram at the end of 2010, like if you go to my Instagram profile, I was on that, baby. Quick smart. I'd love to tell you, because I could see the future, but no, I just wanted the filters to help your very dodgy iPhone 3 or 4 photos be acceptable. So it was kind of all my training as a journalist, where you had to adapt and change to new technologies, set me up to just being able to change every time there was something new happening in this playground that allowed me to have a conversation. Whereas previously, old school media, that's all changed now too. It was a broadcast. So it wasn't a two-way, three-way, 100-way interaction. So for me, that was exciting. And it really felt like finally coming home to the kind of communication that I wanted to be involved with. And I continue to meet so many incredible women through online that I would never have met or connected with. So that just excited me, and it still excites me today.
Yeah. And on that though, like the reason you have, you know, this following and this community behind you is because you're raw and honest. And as you said, when we first, you know, got on together as a call, this is who I am. This is, you know, this is me. You get what you see. What did you say? I can't even remember now.
Get what you get. No, I don't know, but you get what you get. You don't get it. No, you don't get upset. No, I said very early on. So there's probably a dozen of us who successfully turned our blogs into businesses back in the day.
Yeah.
And the thing that was always shared by all of these enterprising women was that it's harder to be someone who you are not than to turn up and just be yourself.
Yeah.
And it's so
it's
true.
It's exhausting if you're not authentic.
It would be. Like, just even my family members get spotted when they're out now. So imagine if they weren't shown as they are, or it's it would be extremely exhausting. And yes, you see all bits of me. You can see the glam bits, you see the everyday bits, but
Mm.
it is just that's who I am in everyday life. So that's what you're going to get. And that key understanding, that key fundamental, whether you're on social media as an influencer or as a brand, that's what you need to stick to, whatever you're
Yeah.
doing, because you're going to attract the people who are attracted to you and not something that's a version of you. And because you're never going to attract everybody. That's
No, and
fine.
I think it's been okay with that, isn't it? Just to
Yes.
know that you can't be for everyone. And I mean, I think that does come with age a little bit, as you said. Like, I mean, obviously there's no set age that happens, but it does as you do get older, you are less worried about that sort of stuff as well. But obviously I think
Definitely.
it's a built thing too, that you can just practice, get better and better and better the more you put yourself out there as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so how has things changed from that very starting point? I mean, it's just such a different landscape, obviously, but you still blog, right? Like it's still a big part of your
Yes.
business.
Selectively. The blog sits there and it is a great little big SEO beast.
Mm-hmm.
So for long form content, and I've got 2 posts that need to get put together and written, it needs to get up. So I write travel pieces that obviously that's the stuff that people look for.
Mm.
Anything now that I think people will look for, and it's not necessarily about fashion anymore because that is um, instant and snackable on social media, but it's the stuff
Yes.
that people want to do research on. So if we do, I've got a kitchen reno blog post to put up.
Yeah.
No one sponsored me for any of that, but I get so many questions that it's so much easier to have it all in one
Yeah.
place.
Refer them back to the blog. You
Blog
can find all
posts,
the
all the
details
links, all
there.
the details, all the pictures, and that and travel content, and any long form editorial pieces that I might want to do. Like I went to the first Curve fashion
Oh, yes, I
show
saw that. Mm.
in
Brisbane Fashion
May.
Week.
No, that was
Oh,
one that
oh,
we
that
did
was
in
a different one.
Brisbane, but
Sorry,
there
yes.
was Australian Fashion Week in May. And it was really moving to me. And I knew that as a writer, it was something that I wanted to long form it. Like I think it's
Mm.
2,000 words or something like that. So
Yep.
it's when the writer wants to come out. But I'm realistic that it takes a lot to get people off their little screen to a
Reading a
link.
full, article.
To a link. Like I can't even remember what my views at the peak. I could get 25,000 views on the blog a day. We're talking back 2013, particularly when
Yeah.
I was writing about Offspring and
Oh,
Nina
yes, with
Proudman.
Nina,
Yes.
Nina
Yeah, Nina
edits.
Proudman.
Yeah.
So they were big numbers, and they're probably the bigger numbers on social media, but they were big numbers for people coming to the blog. And I also always had a subscriber database from day one. There's this funny little
That is big.
there's
Yes.
this funny little Facebook memory that comes up every year in July
Yeah.
on 2008 and just goes, here's a link to my blog. Please subscribe with a link. And it's just like, please, like those stupid little Facebook memories we used to do back
Yes.
in updates when we used to do back in the day. But it was good advice then, and it's the same advice
Oh
I
my
give
gosh. Yeah.
everybody now, no matter, like I've got some influencers who I mentor, and I've got, guys, have you started your newsletter yet?
Yeah.
Please, come on. It's only going to take the next time Instagram has a glitch or whatever. And
And it's happened to many people. So,
yes,
yeah.
yeah. And like I've got 2 databases now, one for the label, which I know we'll get onto, and the old Styling You database is sitting there. And I've it's well cleaned out because there's no use paying for subscribers who
Yeah, from 10 years ago.
that's only just vanity. Like if they haven't engaged, that's fine. And I'm down to sending it out once a month. So it's good content, but once a month. It used to be once a week. So it's just kind of adjusting to where people are actually at. And that's probably the biggest thing, that if you work in the online space, that you've got to continually reset that or rethink it in whatever space, because you have to look at every social media platform that turns up and go, okay, is this going to be for me, for my demographic, for my followers? But maybe just get the handle just in case, because you never know.
Yeah, well, that's right. And yet I'd say to people all the time with my clients, like, where is your customer's attention? Like, as you said, like, is it on the screen?
Yeah.
Is it that they're on Pinterest? And so then that comes back to that. Is it that they just love, even in-person events? Like, what is it that resonates with your client, your target market? Because that's what you sort of have to do or be to connect with them, or be the places that they want that their attention is.
Yes. And I got a survey yesterday from another brand that I buy from, and it was a really good one, asking quite insightful questions about where you spend your social media time. And they're a brand that probably would have customers from 20s up to myself, 50s and 60s potentially. Yeah. So trying to cover off on that. And for our brand and both silos I have, Facebook is still very big. And I know a lot of people diss on Facebook. Organic Facebook I'm talking about is still very big. So I'm really conscious about the content for both, even though personally I would spend more time on Instagram.
Yeah.
So you've got to kind of look at who's reacting here. And some of our Facebook organic stuff will get a better reach because they're all there.
Well, and as you say, like, the more that it's continually engaged, probably, or it has been for a long time, then the more it gets out there as well. So it's that nurturing those connections of whatever it is, the algorithm or whatever, but it's nurturing that you continue to do that because it continues to work. So
yeah. And let's talk about algorithms, because I have seen every change of those over the time. And I don't get frustrated with it, because we rent those platforms. Like, we can't, obviously there's always going to be a sense of frustration, but it's still essentially this free platform, unless you choose to advertise, that is available to you to reach people you wouldn't have reached. Like, I came from mainstream media where it costs thousands to put in a static ad that might be gone the next day. Like, it just, you need that perspective sometime, I feel, to understand that, yes, a post mightn't go successfully and it mightn't convert as successfully as you want, but you've still had this opportunity to get something out there that you wouldn't have otherwise had.
Yeah, and I think that it's only cost you time, not so much, well, unless you are paid advertising money. But yeah, I had the same. We had, my brand from years and years ago was a children's wear brand. We advertised, I think it was 4,000 at the time, which was probably a lot back in 2004. It was a lot back then, but that was an ad in Shop to Your Drop magazine. Yes. That was all we could do because there was no Instagram. So that was the only way to reach our customer.
And to find new customers.
Yes.
So that's a great perspective you have. And, I've just rolled with every change. There was a time in the halcyon days in both Facebook and Instagram where you could grow following really easily. Like, yes. And then that just stops.
Yeah. And I guess like it is going to continue to evolve no matter what. If you're happy with where it is right now, it's going to change next week. Yeah. So just, rolling with that. And I guess that sort of tapped into, though, not having all your eggs in one basket, which I talk about. And, you've mentioned a few times that the blog content of the rich history that you've got in there is such good SEO. So that's obviously another way for people to find you, as opposed to all the other different things you're doing. But definitely, social media, blogs, that's two ways we've talked about. I just want to tap on now because it sort of leads into where we're going anyway, but the use of collaborations too. I've seen that you've done a few of those of late.
So one of the best things about going into business for yourself when you really didn't understand what that involved has been connecting with other women in business, particularly women in business. Yeah. And I've just been really fortunate to meet so many women along the way, and you just create relationships. And I can't stress enough, whether that is online or in person, and again, it's being yourself and attracting the people who are going to be attracted to yourself. Mm-hmm. I can't stress enough how important it is, in not an urgent way, but just in a maybe down the track, this is all going to come together in some kind of way. And I don't have any urgency to that. If I genuinely like what someone does, then I'm going to continue to be engaged with them. And at some point that might be something. And in terms of the latest official collaboration that I've done, and that's more of an outward one instead of things that you might not see behind the scenes. Like I love connecting with women and helping other women in this space. Every Tuesday I walk with another Brisbane fashion designer, and we just like, we don't see
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just, this was a really special one for us, and it was a collaboration with Aboriginal artist Daisy Hill. Now,
I love Daisy.
I bought Daisy's product. First piece of art was back in, I'm going to say 2020. I'm going to say 2020. And then I bought another piece. And I think in 2020, late 2020, I reached out to Daisy and I said, hey, it's me. If you would ever like to collaborate on a clothing range, I'd love to chat with you. And her collaborations were full at that stage. And I left it, and I didn't pursue anyone else because my relationship was with someone I bought that product, and I just left it, and I didn't even think about approaching again because I thought, oh, well, if she wants to do it. And turns out she contacted me.
She did
about just over a year ago, and I went, yes, let's do it. And I really respect the way Daisy works. She has stipulations in terms of the copyright fee, supporting an Aboriginal charity or organisation that we agreed on what was going to be, royalties, so that her artwork and what she brings to the collaboration is completely valued. And that was really important to me. And it's just been it's been great on so many levels. It's been wonderful to introduce the wearable art pieces to my customer.
Yeah.
This is for Styling You, the label. And it's also been great getting the feedback from the customers who are out there wearing the pieces and getting stopped all the time and asked about them.
I love that.
Because Daisy, when we sat down and chatted on the photo shoot day, said, I want these pieces to spark conversations about Aboriginal culture. And every time we get a message about that, I just go, okay, that's great. That's exactly what we wanted it to do.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Daisy's great. I worked with her on a few things with her collaborations, actually, so I'm glad to hear that is how she comes about it. But one of the someone else I'm friends with is Makani Jewelry. She just did a beautiful jewelry collab, which you're wearing right now. So amazing. And she said the same. Daisy was just so fabulous to work with. And I think that's a thing, like when you are doing a collaboration, working with someone that you connect with, it's not just about, what you're going to borrow their audience or, what obviously some of the bonus of doing collaborations, but what can you achieve together? And as Daisy had that sort of goal of this is what I wanted to do, that's amazing that's what's happened.
Yeah, it's been such a great experience. And I think under that as well as professionalism from both sides going into it.
And as you say, expectations. Like,
yes.
What do you want to get out of it, or what do you need to happen for this to take place?
Yes. And she just said what her expectations are, and I went, okay, great, because I'm not going to challenge or beat down a price. It's either I'm going to go ahead with it on those expectations, or I don't. And I did want to go ahead with it. So that is, I think that's something to respect on what I have utmost respect for what any creative brings to the party, whether it's my makeup artist, whether it's my photographer, like that's their thing. Yeah. So yes, you have a brief and you have all of that kind of stuff, but ultimately they're the people who are going to enhance whatever you're doing together.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I like that. Hello, lovely. If you're looking for a way to grow your product business without relying on Facebook ads or posting daily on social media, then I invite you to register for my free masterclass. This is happening very, very soon, and inside of this masterclass, I'm sharing the strategy behind building a profitable product-based business so you can attract consistent customers and scale to 6 figures and beyond. I also emphasise how to create a sustainable long-term business, which is such an important factor for me. I'm so excited to be teaching this masterclass soon, so make sure you go and register for your free spot by heading to the link in the show notes below. You talked about influencers before in terms of your mentoring some of them as well. So again, you're probably one of the, I don't even know if the term existed back when you first started, but yeah, like you're a very early influencer and still doing that today.
Yeah, so that's why you see blogger in my in my bio. Yes, it kind of got thrust on us because we were all blogging but earning sponsorship money from our blogs.
Yeah.
And it was mostly back then for the blog content. And that then escalated. I think influencer came after Instagram.
And
Instagram started to take off. So by 2012, so I had started adding content to my blog in 2008, and by the end of 2010, I probably had 50,000 views a month on the blog, and I didn't realize at the time that was quite substantial for that time. And then by 2012, I had monetized that to the point that I stopped doing personal styling clients and any other extra side hustle work that I was doing because I was earning more off sponsorship and advertising on the blog than I was in all the other things. And it needed my time. It needed my time and energy to be on that. So that was a bit of a halcyon part of online world in Australia, 2012 through to 2016, I would say. Not that many people in what became the influencer space. And then it's exploded since then. And I still think the same things that I started with remain. It's just sharing on a different platform. And I have the beauty now of my label is the biggest chunk of my business. So if I take on a sponsorship client, it is because I really, really, really love it. There's a connection with it. And I can also fit it in to the schedule.
Yeah.
But those same things that I thought about before I said yes to anybody's money were true then. And I probably made some slip-ups occasionally because you have that fear of you don't have any control when you're just relying on influencing as your main source of income. So sometimes I would make wrong decisions, and a friend of mine in the blogging space at the time, and still Beth from Add to Cut Baby Mac, and that's her online store as well.
Yes, I actually spoke with Renee from Birch about her earlier today. So yes, she was telling me all about the store in Moss Vale.
Yes, so she would call it the icky neck feeling, that if she got approached to work with a brand, it was like, what was the neck feeling straight off? And that stuck with me, and it kind of just it's using your intuition. Is this going to be a good partnership? It comes back to talking about the collaborations that I'm now doing on the other side. Is this something that you want your personal brand to be attached with? And it's thinking about your audience as well, if that's going to add value to them. But ultimately, you have to be able to sell it. And to be able to sell it, it has to sit well with your personal brand. So I have a time factor attached to that icky neck feeling now, but still the same premises remain. If I already buy it, then that's a great one. I did a Loving Tan spray tan, fake tan campaign recently. I said yes to them because that's the product I've been using and buying since 2016. Yeah. If it was another tanning company, I probably would have said no.
It would have felt wrong, it
would have felt wrong, and not that anyone would necessarily know, but it just, to fit it into my schedule, it had to tick those boxes. Frankie for Footwear is a long-term partner that I've had.
And you're an ambassador there in terms of, slightly different term, I guess, as well, because people can use either or of those in terms of, as in brands can use either influencers for a one-off sort of more, but ambassador, would you say that's a longer term?
Yes, it's a longer term contract, and that has been a great relationship and really complements everything that I do in the clothing side of things. And I just love their story. And the founder, Caroline, is a friend, and what she has achieved with that business, and it's global now, is amazing. And it just feels right. So while ever something is feeling right long term, if they still want to keep working with me, then I'm going to say yes, please.
Yeah.
And so anything else that comes in, that's like a base level for the sponsorship side of my business. And then anything else that comes approaching anyone else who approaches me, I just throw all those other things into place, whether I've got the time, like now is a peak time. So it's mostly a no, whether it is something that I'm happy to be aligned with. Since I started my own label, I made the personal decision, and this isn't for everybody, to not do paid work with other fashion brands. I do editorial placements for other independent brands that I've long supported, but in terms of paid placements, I stopped because I didn't want to be caught in a situation where there was the potential to be a conflict, where they wanted me to wear something that was super close to something I knew I was releasing in 6 months' time.
Yeah.
Awkward. Not only could it annoy that brand, it would be confusing to my customer and follower, because they'd be saying, well, you said I should buy this, and now you're releasing this. And also, most people don't understand the lead time in producing a fashion garment, and they would think that they could think that I copied.
Yeah.
So all
even
of
though
those
you had
things,
production and everything working for before that. Yeah, absolutely.
So essentially I resigned from 2 long-term fashion partnerships because I just wanted to eliminate any of the ickiness that could come from a paid collaboration. I am here. An editorial placement is different because I can go, oh, I won't accept or feature that because I do know I do have something similar. That's right. I did a jeans placement recently, and that suited because we don't produce jeans.
Yeah. Okay.
So it complements things that we already do.
Yeah.
So there is, in some ways, there's harder decisions to be made, but in some ways, narrowing my parameters and what I'm going to accept is easier.
Well, I guess as well, as you say, like, as you're part of your evolution of what your focus was, what you're doing now, and your label now is obviously a bigger part of you than what it was, in 10 years ago even, or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, because when did you start the brand?
I started the brand in 2019, so it'll be 4 years next year. But before that, from 2015, I had an online store. So selling other people's brands. But that was actually gave me more confidence to do my own, because you had stats, you had analytics.
I was data, yes.
You had
I love
data.
It. Data's my thing too. It's like review your data, and then you could obviously from that see what was working, see what people responded to.
And it's the same website so it wouldn't have had the same SEO love as Styling You, but the shop website, still already had traffic coming to it. It was a different model, and it was also attached to an online style program that I ran. I can't even remember. I did all these things. Very Gemini of me to kind of bounce around, but I feel like I was just waiting to get to something like this. And the beauty of my own label, it's also come from, it's essentially a collaboration. So one of the brands that I used to stock, Philosophy, they are my manufacturers. And Ali, who now owns Philosophy, became friends with me online through an Instagram community I started back in 2013 called the Everyday Style Community, where people shared
that's your hashtag as well, isn't it? Like,
yes.
It was.
It got hijacked. It's got hijacked. But back in the day, and there are still women from that initial let's all share what we're wearing every day community who are still doing it. And they created their own communities and own brands. And my whole premise with that was, let's just get Instagram flooded with a whole range of different women, different ages, sizes, shapes, backgrounds, color, sharing what they're wearing so that we're changing up. And back then, print media and magazines still had a lot of sway, changing up what women
what's seen
see.
or what is
seen. What's the version of beauty and style? There's so many. And by seeing a diverse range of women every day, then and now, it just helps you to form your own version of what style and beauty is. So,
because obviously that's a big part of, like I think you've said, being a disruptor in what was, the only option or only thing that you could see was, the 6'2", size 8 model. And you're like, but how's it going to look like on me? Like, how is this going to impact? And if you don't see anyone else looking how you look, it does feel as if you're somehow abnormal compared to what the print or, people putting out there was at the time.
Yeah, and with that comes a lack of confidence in shopping. And even though I only did the personal styling for about 3.5 years, I saw 150 different women in that time. That's a lot of women's different bodies, sizes, shapes. Can I just say the collective inner critic was the same. It didn't matter if it was a size 6 triathlete or a size 20, 24 office worker. Everybody had issues with their bodies and everybody struggled, and this is way before social media, struggled to imagine themselves in a campaign image of a piece of clothing that I would like them to try on. And that's because there's nothing reflected back at them. There wasn't. It's changed so much, thank goodness. But
yes, thank goodness.
Very proud to be part of that change from the blog level. I started a series in 2010. When I say these dates,
you remember all these dates. Actually,
well, that one I get asked about all the time. So Model and Me, and it was where
I've seen you. Still do that today. Yes,
very haphazardly today, but it used to be every week. Model and Me Mondays, and it was a campaign image. And then me in it, which is only one other alternative. But back then, in the early stages of online retail, there weren't two alternatives minimum. There was one model. There's still a lot of sites with only one model, can I just say? Totally. But everyone could see an alternative and they could place themselves between me and the model or bigger than the model if the size range went to that. And that was the start of it. And that was when I started the online store. It was me in the clothes to start with. And then I got 2 other models, smaller, taller. Height is another thing, not just size. So when you're seeing something on a 6 foot tall model, you can't imagine where that's going to fall on you if you're 5'1". Like it just is so hard. And so inch by inch, dollar by dollar. Yeah. And then when I launched my own label, I made the somewhat crazy decision to photograph everything on each size that we produce. And originally that was 6 sizes from size 8 to 18. And now it is 8 to 20 with extras in there. So Lisa Cox is she has a disability from falling ill in her 20s, and she approached me about modelling for us, and I went, sure, Lisa. So Lisa is in there as well.
Love that. I think I saw her on your Instagram a few days ago.
Yes. And I also had a Muslim woman reach out to me a couple of years ago about being involved, and hopefully she'll be back soon. She's had a baby. And these people reach out and I go, sure, let's do this. Let's add you in.
That must make your photo shoots really long.
Oh, they're a well-oiled machine. You should hear how we run them now. Originally, I used to have everybody on set all day.
Wow.
With 2 photographers, and then someone showed me a spreadsheet of the budget and I went, okay.
Yeah, let's map this out a little bit better.
Also, COVID happened, so that was a problematic. That also couldn't happen. But the aim of that, there's a couple of aims. There's a practical aim for our online shoppers. That is, if you go to our site, not only do you have a minimum of 8 different visuals for the piece that you're looking at, we have their height and their bust, waist, and hip measurement and their bra size listed in the fit tab. So you can get out your tape measure and match your measurements to one or two of the models and come very close to nailing your size. And then you can contact us, tell us your measurements, and I can pretty much nail your size in our brand because it's data. So on our shoot days, if I see a trend where everyone's sized up or down in a garment, number one, I go, oh my God, well, no.
What did we do with
what have I done? But we can share that information. We're very upfront and honest and go, normally wears this size, but is wearing this size in this garment. And we're also cut differently. So all of those stats and that data is essential. We're cut on me, a size 12 in our label, a 14 in straight size labels. But the boobs are cut in, the hips are cut in, the butt's cut in. If you've got one, I've got a flat one. So even our size 6 has the curves. So most label fashion brands, straight size fashion brands, will start from a pattern that's
the grading is, I used to grade myself. I used to do the grading, and it is just proportionally goes up, but that's not how bodies work.
No, especially female bodies.
Yes.
So when people say, oh, I wish there was size consistency, I've come to understand that for women, I don't think that's possible because we are not consistent.
Yeah,
like
so different.
We have people in our shoot who have small busts. We have people in a shoot who have larger busts, and it doesn't matter what their size is. Fitting those into the proportions, it's not a straight size. There isn't a straight size. So my biggest market is women who have struggled to walk into a straight size store and have something fit and feel comfortable on them. And that is the cut. That is the cut of the garment. And that's where we're achieving. Like women who have gone, I've been looking for a pair of work pants for a long time, and now they've got them because it fits them around the waist, but it's not baggy around the hips or the legs because we do, just put elastic in at the back or things. I kind of pull apart, why does this not work for me? What's going on here? How can we make this different? Because I just don't want to be adding more clothes into the world without a reason. So there's that very practical reason, but also on a disruptive level, I really want so there's 2 more reasons. There's this disruptive level. I really want more brands, especially if they're only still using one model. Get with the program. So I want more brands to do that. And yes, it costs more money. And yes, you've got to get organized and you've got to buy more samples, but it will pay off for you.
It would lead to more sales.
It will lead to more sales and less returns, fewer returns.
I was going to say, the returns factor.
So our return rate, we managed to keep 10% and under.
Which I'm sure
for apparel is pretty good. And sure, that takes a hit. And, luckily I'm not on the customer service and I don't see all the returns pile up because you try not to take it personally, just like someone unsubscribing. But no, we want people, if it's not right, bring it back. Let's find a forever home for someone else because we don't want landfill. We want you to love everything you wear. And then thirdly, it is I want more women particularly, to see themselves in fashion. And not feel excluded from an industry. And look, not everyone is into clothes. For me, my premise has always been about clothes are a way to show up in the world and show who you are, and it gives people an idea about who you are from what you see and what your personality is.
But that, as you talked about though, it's your everyday style. Like you are just dressing for every day and what people live their lives in. It's not just, special events or occasions. And you also talk about, which I did mention at the start, but let's, touch on that, is you dress for your attitude, not your age.
Yes. So that comes into it as well. So I'm 55. Karen models for us. She's 54. Jan is late 60s. So
And they're forgotten about by so much of the fashion industry, the age groups.
I would say over 40s are.
Yeah.
I think, and it's nuts because typically the kids are getting older. Like we're 1 year off, not empty nesters at that stage, but it just typically there is more disposable income. Not always, but there is. There's more discernible income, that's for sure. And it just makes sense to be reflected back, whether that's age, size, color. Let's just change how fashion is marketed so that more people feel connected to it. And it strikes me that that can happen at any level of fashion business, from a very small independent like myself through to the big brands. The big brands have no excuse. They should be
Exactly.
doing something about this.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You know, it touches on as well, I know another subject that you've started you talk about more is menopause too, like all of that whole part of the story, like how women's bodies change, or is anyone thinking about these things when they're designing the garments back, you know, for their 20-year-old fit model or whatever it might be, who they use. Like the women in this, as you say, they're probably lacking in confidence for so many different reasons.
And then you throw in perimenopause and menopause on top of that,
exactly.
and it's like,
and that's so much. Oh my gosh. So yeah,
and it
there's
is all
more.
those things. But even like so many of us sit down all day at work. I test that none of my things are going to cut into me.
Yes.
When I'm
So that you
testing
can
the
actually keep your
samples.
button done up or whatever it might
Because
be.
as soon as you start to feel, so many of us, you just start to feel a little bit discomfort in your clothes, or if it doesn't feel it's fitting right, you spend all day fidgeting. And that's a good segue to Trini.
Oh my gosh, Trini,
oh my God, we're all over the shop. I'm sorry, Mel. But
No, I had all these topics that I wanted to touch on with you, and as I said, I could have written another 50 questions, but
okay,
Trini was definitely something I wanted to.
I'm going to bring that in nicely, because if you look at the marketing and the representation she has on her website and on their socials,
amazing,
age, color, size, everything, like you feel seen. Like I want to spend money there, and I've spent a lot of money over the last 4 years. I want to spend money there because I feel seen, and the fashion industry needs to get that, and other beauty brands need to get that as well, quite frankly. Like it's not just 20-year-olds out there buying beauty products. But for me, in clothes, I want them to be comfortable. So I didn't try on the top that I wore, took down to Sydney to meet Trini.
Before you,
yeah. And like it fit, but it was just a bit grabby around the boobs, and I should have taken the bigger size with me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see Trini, who is
Trini. This is Trini.
just always about like looking at the clothes. Anyway, she was looking at the makeup, and I just spent all day. It was annoying me. Like I just spent. It was the wrong size.
Yeah.
And I like should have just, number one, I should have tried the outfit on before I left.
I can't believe you actually didn't do that.
Oh, well, I guess because I thought, it's my clothes, it should be fine. But yeah, anyway. So a good segue.
That, like,
yes.
As you say, her brand, like what she has done is, inclusive. It makes it so easy to buy makeup online because there's so many tools that she has in place to get the right match for you and stuff. Questionnaires, different types of models, different looks, all that sort of stuff. And then even just her doing the pop-ups is an interesting, a tool for her, because she's like, well, let's get in front of people more. So that she's obviously been here to open up her pop-ups.
Yeah, so they open in September and they will continue in those locations. So I'm just campaigning for Brisbane at this point.
Oh, yes, I bet you are.
But also people are saying to me, will they stay? And I've gone, well, support them. If you live near there, go to them, because that's data for the brand. But that is the model that they have in the UK. They have their own stores. I think there's something different in the US. But the kiosk, if you've seen any of the photos, is just this beautiful branded yellow, in the middle of the
beacon
shopping centre. Yeah. And she gives her energy to her customer. There is no taking that customer for granted. Everything I watched, I had a one-on-one for
Yeah.
an hour. So
Oh my
I'm
God.
very, very privileged, but I watched the attention online that was given to each of those women from
Yeah.
the Trini Tribe, which is a Facebook group that grew organically. I watched the attention that she gave each and every
Yeah.
one of them.
Mm.
Like, there are people of lesser celebrity than she is who would not have stood there and had a photo with 200 women individually at those events. And that's obviously her personality, and she has the wherewithal to do that, but it's still a great lesson in never being too far from your customer.
Yeah, and as you said, she's authentically her. Like, she doesn't, try and be anyone else. She's crazy and out there, and
and not for everybody, but for
no.
a lot of people.
Yeah, and also touching on that, like even her styling, her looks, and everything, she uses that. Her and Chloe, I just love the combination together. They're
I
absolutely
know. So
hilarious.
that's wonderful, and it just that brand is one that I definitely hold up as inspiration for how they market and make women feel seen. And looking at the people in the Trini Tribe, a very similar demographic to our label, but that's a demographic that so many brands are missing out on because they're not reflecting that customer back.
Back in their marketing, their online store, their models, everything. And even, as you say, that starting point of the design process too, like getting that right from the very beginning, making sure they're tapping into that. Yeah. And just on that, like, obviously, I just wanted to ask you one, flicking back to your influencer, like I know I have a lot of clients who say to me, I've tried influencers and they don't work. So I'm not going to do that again. What would you say to those people? Because not necessarily, working with you in particular, because obviously, you're not doing as much of that as you used to, but you mentor a lot of new influencers or a lot of people who want to have that as part of their business. What would you say to brands at the start?
Yeah, so I've come at it at a few angles, those two angles, but also from our label's point of view, we pay influencers to do content as well as gifted content, and also I include influencers as our models. So I am a big believer in the micro influencer.
Yes.
I think where people go wrong is they go just on numbers. I think the biggest thing a brand can do is lurk and stalk the online world.
Engagement
Spend
and look
time.
at comments.
I don't go heavy on all. It's so obvious when a brand has just found you and just wants to keep. They've gone back on lots of posts and left lots of messages. Just lurk for a while. Just see, because lurking also gives you the chance to see, does the influencer respond to comments? If you send them a DM, do you hear back from them? I just think you have to get beyond the data.
Like followers.
I think the data is crucial. I still see, and this just gets on my nerves, so many people are still buying likes and buying likes of posts. And it's actually the easiest thing to detect. You just go into their followers, or you go into the people who have liked a post, and if after a handful of handles that have liked the post, they're all strange names and everything,
then you can see they're bots or whatever. They're just not actually.
And if you're a brand and you're also not asking for a screenshot of the insights of where those people are coming from, then you're crazy. Particularly if you're only marketing in Australia, and either they've grown globally massively, or it's all from India or somewhere in Asia. That is a sure sign. So you're not going to get results with your influencer marketing because there is no engagement there.
Yeah,
that's not organic growth. That's bought growth, and if I see people who I know have bought likes and bought followers, and there's brands still working for them. And I'm going, okay, if they're working for them for the content, then that's fine, because that's a different reason to work with an influencer.
Yeah, and that's it. You could work with people for two different reasons.
But if you're going because they've got 200,000 followers and that's not going to convert to sales if their audience has 7% Australian
Mm,
followers,
mm.
if you're only selling in Australia and they're buying all the likes and the views. So it doesn't take much to do due diligence on that, but I'm talking about big agencies will not even look at that.
Yeah, not even check.
And it's just crazy because ultimately, particularly if you're a smaller brand wanting to work with influencers, you want sales.
Yeah,
You literally
that's right.
want sales.
Yeah.
So one way to do it, if you can, is with a branded coupon.
Yeah, so you can see direct links from,
offer an affiliate program, and that also can help you track.
I saw a great one the
people.
other day, which you might be doing as well, I don't know, but Adore Beauty. I bought some shampoo off Adore Beauty, and I love this. As you are checking out, they're like, hey, we've got 3 people that we collaborate with. You can pick one of these brands and you'll get a code. So I picked a brand and then I got a code, and an affiliate link went straight to their website. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, that's great. But from a brand, you can set up your own affiliate program.
Yeah.
And some of the brands that I've worked with who converted before I had my own label to paid work tracked the sales through the affiliate program. So I was getting paid an affiliate commission, but they could see how many were tracked through
from
that.
your direct either blog post or whatever it might have been. Yeah.
And then we do a simple thing where first-time customers get an auto email, very short, only text from me saying, obviously thank you.
Yeah.
But hit reply and tell us how you found us. So while not everyone's going to respond to that, it is great when it's affirmed, whether it's one of the influencers we paid. Sometimes I've still got this big funnel over in Styling You, trying to get over to Styling You, the label. Sometimes it's people who've been following me for years and they've finally made a purchase. So I feel like
see where they're coming from. And I guess that's touching on that. Like, you are doing lots of things, so it is good to sort of see what's happening, because you are, obviously still doing styling or blog content.
Yeah.
You are using influencers, you're doing collaborations, like you are doing events. I mean, I don't even know if we've covered all your different things that you do.
You might have to ask me about how many
employees one thing I did want to, just finishing off, because just in case anyone's really worried wanting to know about this, with the influencers, I definitely think that upfront communication, expectations. So, you each know what you want from it. So then there's no sort of, second guessing or, I thought that this was going to happen.
Yeah. So I think you have to be upfront, but also please don't expect upfront expectations just for a gifted product.
Yes. So
that is a PR placement, and hopefully they like it. Hopefully they share it, but you should send product without any form of guarantees or expectation.
Yes. Only when it's a paid, obviously, influencer, then you should have clear, okay, this is how many times, say, on a post or whatever, where it's featured. Or
please quote for me the cost of 1 Reels post, 3 stories with links, and any other share that you want. Like, be specific and quote with that. And when they come back with their price, and I think if you expect a price, I think that's a really good acknowledgement of the value that you think that person potentially can bring to you. And then you have to be either okay with the price they come back with and give it a crack, like I am. I pay what my bloggers and my influencers do, or you negotiate or look for someone else.
And you've got to trial different things too.
Yes.
You can't just do it once or twice and just say it doesn't work. You've got to maybe just try and find the right one for your fit, your target.
So with the label, I purposely have 3 people that we pay most months to produce the content, and they are different sizes and they produce similar styling kind of content, but I trust their creativity, and I don't tell them how to put together the content. I tell them what I want, and that's the same every month, but I don't ask for a draft. That's a level of trust I've got with these particular women. But that's something that you can get to.
Because you're not saying this is the only way to wear this product either. And if you did give that specific information, then it will just come back the same way every time. Whereas, I know that you work with Brooke. Like Brooke might style things something completely differently to what you would have originally done it, and that's okay because that's how other women are going to do it as well.
And that comes back to all the stuff we talked about earlier, that there's not one way for women to look or to style something, and that it's so exciting to see women take your creativity and turn it into something else.
Yeah.
And so it's a long game. And I think come up with a budget that you're happy to work with, but don't discount micro influencers. They don't have to have 50,000 followers. You can see if they're highly engaged with their audience, whether just by lurking, you can tell how that's going to look. Do you like the way they do their content? Because you can't come in and tell them to do their content differently if they do it all a different way. Like you've got all of those things, but that's also the beauty of social media, that it's all there for you to look at before you even reach out via email. Please reach out via email.
Yeah, not DM.
Please send a DM. Oh my goodness.
In the DM.
Lost. I'll get this DM this long.
You can never find again the one you're actually
And I actually say, can you please just copy and paste this into an email because this will be lost by tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
If that email isn't on the bio, then please DM for the best email. That's fine. But don't pitch me
a response
in the
just
DMs.
Yeah.
Oh, I know it's convenient and easy, but oh my goodness, it just gets lost. That's expectations again. Just set clear what you're looking for, but put it in an email so that
and have all those the right, like even subject line or content within the email, because I'm forever searching for my emails again, going, where's that email again? So if it's got the right little, snippets of information, it makes it a lot easier to find again.
And same for the influencer, that it's all there in writing. Most influencers will have a rate card.
Yep.
So you can at first instant, but you might not want to say what you're doing. Explain your brand. Don't hide the fact what your brand is, because they might say right away, oh, that doesn't align, or I've got something coming up with a competitor, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So be upfront about your brand and just say, interested in working with you, could you share your rate card with us?
Yeah.
And that will have hopefully packages and things that they do.
What's included for
what's
what price
included.
Like
and then you can go back to them. But that's a really engaged way to go in to the first step of working with an influencer, but you've done a lot of stalking to get to that point.
Yeah. And I think that's what people say, where do I find them? I think it is just stalking, seeing what other brands use, what, target market you have, what is non-competing brands, as you said.
Go and look at tagged photos on brands that are similar to yours. Look at your own tagged photos. You might have
people who've already who love it already
and are sharing it because they love it. That's your best influencer to start working with.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's good. So one thing, Nikki, I wanted to ask about, because obviously you're doing so many different things and you're not a one-woman show, are you? How do you run the business? How many staff do you have either in Styling You or in Styling You the label?
Well, essentially it's mainly for the label.
Yep.
But I could not do this without kick-ass warehouse team, which is Lexington Logistics in Brisbane.
Yes. Which is how you found me, which is great, because I had a podcast with Dion. Yes.
And everyone should go back and listen to that.
Yes.
Their team is fantastic. So the stress of actually orders getting out is taken away from us. It is. So we used to have staff to pack orders. If you can find a 3PL that works for you, it's a user pays scenario. So it's a per order, per unit.
The load off is unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. So I have been with them 2 years now, more than 2 years.
Yeah.
And then essentially my other big team are my manufacturers in Sydney. So we're Australian made. So I work with them on the sampling, and they're the ones who manage the production.
Yep.
So I've got those two great contractors, and then it's me, more than full-time, and it's part-time marketing manager, 20 hours a week, and part-time customer service, 10 hours a week.
Wow.
That's
not much,
the structure
really,
since
where you're
July.
at.
Yeah. But it is because of those two big logistic
they're taken away from you.
Yeah.
Well, taken out of your direct
Yeah, we had a showroom for 2 years that I went into just before lockdown, and I had more staff, and I'm back in my happy place working at home. I decided not to renew the lease because we've taught everyone how to shop online so well. And
well, because you give better information as well, though, that helps because obviously having that, data and stats and everything in there for people to be able to figure out their size is a lot easier.
And my 2 team members work remotely, and they are very happy to work that way. And they work their hours, essentially. There's a couple of meeting times a week, but that's it.
Yeah. Well, you do an amazing job of all the different things that you are doing. Just on that, so what else is in store for Styling You or Styling You the label, or like what other things you're going to add to your list of job description?
I don't think there's room for anything else.
I don't think there is either. You did mention you were going to start a podcast.
Oh, gosh, no.
I don't know where you're going to get time for that.
There is no time. The nature of female fashion is that it is ongoing. So we've got 2 more drops for this season.
Yes.
The order is already in for autumn winter, and I have to have next summer sorted by January. So that you're always in this hamster wheel. There's a couple of natural low points between the seasons, middle of the year, end of the year. But apart from that, I've got a very well-oiled machine of monthly drops. So at the moment, there is no space for that. And yes, there is potential to grow it and have more people. But I'm also I listened to an interview with 2 business people last year, the founders of Lovely Flowers Delivery, and one of the people, no, they're not sisters, partners in the business, said scaling down is the new scaling up. And that's where my headspace is at, that I want a business that's making a difference in the world, but I don't want to be worn out and not have time for friends and family. I'm 55. I love what I do, but I don't want to be spending my weeks doing non-creative things like managing staff, etc. Yep. So that's where I'm at with that, and it's a really lovely place to be. Because essentially the clothing line is a tool for me to be able to change up the way things are done and just
I love that.
Prod other people to consider the same.
And I think what you touched on there is success looks different to everyone. So what does it look like for you, and what do you want it to be? And, you're working from home and you're being able to manage everything as well as balance, other things in your life. Like that's what is important to you. So don't worry about other people's expectations or, those top line figure numbers that people, talk about. It's having a sustainable long-term business, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, sustainable for your own mental health and sustainable for the business. And I feel like for me it was just, I don't know who ever told me that if you start a business, you've got to just keep growing it. I just don't understand. I think organically it can, and definitely it has grown since we started, even though it was the toughest 2 years because we didn't have the data behind us. We went into the pandemic with only less than a year on trading and in this part of the business. And it actually helped me to get clear on exactly the style of business I want to be running and how I want to be able to spend time at nighttime with my family and not be back at the computer. Yeah. And I feel like if you can create the space in your own business and your own personal life to work out how that looks for you and then make decisions around that. And it's all very well that it's different and you want to take on the world and scale and go nuts. That's totally okay. But it's also okay to go, you know what? I really enjoy the level of work I'm at now.
And be okay with that.
And be okay with it.
And I think you mentioned briefly in something you said, the long game. Like it's a long game, so it doesn't have to be a rush either. And everything you've done in the past is sort of all added and contributed to where you're at now. So, viewing it like that too is really important.
Yeah, don't discount anything, like your first job, anything leading to where you are now. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking about, I want to start a business, but, do you have to have this grand plan and everything in place? And I know Beck, who was on a couple of weeks ago, she would probably say, yes, have the grand plan. I had a plan.
She doesn't always have a plan.
Yes, and I had a plan that obviously looked nothing like I was doing within a couple of years, because the actual platforms for what I was using didn't even exist. So I feel like don't let that be your stumbling block.
Yeah.
Give it a crack. Don't give up your side hustle. I created new side hustles because I had to have flexibility.
Yeah.
But if you've got this burning desire and you think that there's something more than working in your corporate job or your Monday to Friday, then give it a crack.
Yeah. Yeah. Get started, get going, see how you go. Yeah. Pursue your passions too. Do what you love. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, Nikki. It's been fabulous, and I cannot wait to share with everyone this, and obviously them to, look at your label more if they haven't already seen that. Obviously, they can follow you at Styling You on Instagram, and Styling You, the label, is where the brand lives. So I look forward to hearing the feedback, and I'm just so grateful to have you today.
Thanks so much, Mel.
Thank you so much for listening to the Lotco Business Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you subscribe to receive future episodes as they are released. And I'd be so grateful for a review on Apple Podcast. If you would like a copy of the show notes or any of the links mentioned today, please jump onto my website at thelotco.com.au/podcast. Have an amazing week, and I look forward to chatting to you again soon.